everyone. Today's video is all about attributes and using attributes to help us sort or organize. Let's start off by talking about what attributes are. Attributes are special features that we notice. Attributes tell us what to pay attention to when we sort. Today we are going to be using cutouts of buttons. We will be noticing different special features or attributes of the buttons and then paying attention to those special features so that we can organize them into groups. Before we start sorting and organizing our buttons, let's learn some different attributes. Size, shape, type, color, and position are all attributes. Each of these attributes are a special feature that we can pay attention to when we are organizing or sorting items. For example, I have a handful of button cutouts. They are different sizes. If I pay attention to the size of the buttons, that means I am paying attention to the attribute size to help me sort. That's not the only way I could organize these buttons. Instead of paying attention to their size, I could pay attention to their shape. The attribute shape is another way to organize our items. Type can refer to the type of button. In this case, each button has a different number of holes. This button has 6 holes. This button has 4 holes in the middle. So perhaps I could organize these buttons by paying attention to their type. I could make a group for each type of button. Size, shape, type. Another attribute or special feature we can pay attention to help us sort and organize is color. You will notice that these buttons are many different colors. If I pay attention to their color, I can make groups for each one. Size, shape, type, color, position. You might notice that some of the buttons in my hands are positioned in different ways. Some are crooked, some are straight, some are diagonal. Depending on how they're positioned, we can create different groups to help organize our buttons. These are not the only attributes. In fact, if we weren't using button pictures, we could add other attributes to pay attention to as well. If you were organizing items in real life, perhaps you could pay attention to their weight, how heavy they are. Or perhaps you could pay attention to their texture, what they felt like. There are many different attributes or special features that you can pay attention to, and by choosing just one, that will be a great way to get started on your organizing or sorting. So let's pick one attribute to begin with. I think we'll start with color. It's usually the simplest way to begin. So I select my attribute color. By choosing this attribute, I now know what I'm paying attention to as I organize my buttons. Can you tell that I'm putting buttons together that are the same color? I have many different color groups. It's helping me sort and organize my buttons. I'm only paying attention to the color. I'm not paying attention to other attributes such as shape or type. I could continue, but I think you get the idea. I have created different groups by paying attention to the attribute color. Can you see each of my groups? I'm going to give each group a name. So, for example, I will call this group yellow. That's my yellow group. This group will be called black. Remember, I'm only paying attention to color. I can continue going through this process by saying how each group of buttons is the same. I'm using color words to describe them. Of course, this is not the only way to organize the buttons. We know there are many other attributes that we could pay attention to. Let's remove the buttons and create some new groups. This time, instead of paying attention to the attribute color, let's pay attention to the attribute shape. Now, my button groups will be based on the shape of the button. This button is an oval shape. This button is a circle shape. This button is a square shape. Notice how there are different colors in each group. That doesn't matter because this time I am paying attention only to the attribute shape. Oops, that one doesn't go there. It's not an oval, it's a circle. Now I've sorted my buttons according to the attribute of shape. I've created 3 groups. It's time for me to describe my groups. I'll call this group the circle group. I will call the next group the square group. And my third group will be called the oval group. I organized or sorted my buttons paying attention to the attribute shape. That's still not the only way I can organize or sort the buttons. So far we've practiced sorting the buttons paying attention to the attributes color and then shape. Let's pick a different attribute. This time I'm going to choose the attribute type. I will pay attention to the type of button. This button has 2 holes. It's a 2-hole button. So is that button. There's another one. They're the same type because they all have 2 holes. This button has 6 holes. Same with that one and this one. 2-hole buttons, 6-hole buttons. This button has 4 holes. So does that one. I've created new groups. It's time for me to name my groups. The first group is called 2-hole buttons. The next group is called 6-hole buttons. And the final group is called 4-hole buttons. I organized or sorted them by paying attention to the attribute of type. So far, we've organized or sorted our buttons paying attention to the attributes of color, type, and shape. There's many different attributes you can pay attention to. Attributes are features, special features you pay attention to. They help you organize items when you choose just one. The neat thing about sorting is after you sort, you can create a pattern with the items in your sort. So let's give it a go. We're going to pick an attribute that we can help sort our buttons by, and then we'll end up creating a pattern once the buttons are sorted. Let's see. We've done color, we've done type, we've done shape. Let's see. I think we'll go with size this time. Let's pay attention to the attribute size. That will help us create our groups when we sort our buttons. Some of these buttons are large. I'll make my groups up here. Those buttons are rather big, and other buttons are small. I have a large button. Here's another small one. A large one. Here's another large one. Let's see if I can get a small one. There's a small one. Here's another small one. This time, my sort only has 2 groups. I paid attention to the attribute size. This group is called small, and this group is called big. I can use this sort to build a pattern. When you build a pattern, first you make the core, and then you copy it again and again. I'm going to move these buttons into my pattern down below. Let's see, it's time to build a core. My core will be big, big, small. That's my pattern core, big, big, small. Now I have to copy my core so it's exactly the same the next time around. Big, big, small. These cores are the same, big, big, small, and then it repeats, big, big, small. If I want my pattern to continue, I would do the same thing again. Pick big, another big, and then a small. The final step to creating my pattern is labeling it so that everyone knows the pattern rule. All of the buttons that came from the big group, they can be called A. All of the buttons that came from the small group can be called B. That means my pattern rule is A, B, because I had a big button, another big button, then a small one. I'll repeat my pattern rule. A, B. These letters act as a code. And of course, if I continue my pattern further, it must follow the same pattern rule. Big, big, small. A will mean a big button and B will mean a small button. We always use the letters of the alphabet in order, starting with A and progressing on down. That's so far what we've gotten to now, but our pattern's not exactly finished. It really should repeat several more times. There's no more space on our board, but perhaps you can give it a go on your own. Find items from around your house. Choose an attribute that you would like to pay attention to organize them, and once they're sorted into groups, use those groups to build a pattern core. Copy the core again and again, and bada bing bada boom, you've got yourself a pattern. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.